You just don't get it. You don't understand what's really happening here. We're stuck. We're flooded. What was supposed to be a normal Thursday in New York turned into something straight out of a disaster movie. As night fell, the city that never sleeps found itself drowning in chaos. Rain didn't fall, it crashed down. In just a few hours, streets became rivers, subways turned into underground waterfalls, and cars floated helplessly through Brooklyn and Queens. In Manhattan, sirens echoed through the city as lights flickered and basements filled in minutes. Across the Hudson, New Jersey was hit just as hard. Highways vanished underwater, trees came crashing down, and entire neighborhoods were swallowed by muddy floods. But here's the thing, this wasn't a hurricane, not even a tropical storm. It was just rain, for inches in only a few hours, and it brought one of the most powerful cities in the world to a standstill. By nightfall, flights were canceled, trains stopped moving, and millions of people were stranded, watching their city go silent. Tonight wasn't just another storm. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that even the strongest cities can crumble when nature decides to fight back. Because this flood didn't just drown streets, it exposed just how fragile our world really is. It started just after noon on October 30th, 2025. Radar screens across the Northeast began lighting up like warning signs. What was supposed to be a light afternoon shower turned into something no one expected, a massive wall of rain racing out of the Appalachian Mountains and heading straight for the East Coast. Within minutes, the iconic Manhattan skyline was gone, swallowed by sheets of relentless rain. By 1 p.m., thunder echoed across the boroughs, and visibility dropped to nearly nothing. The rain came down hard, hammering rooftops, overflowing gutters, and flooding the subway vents below. In just a few hours, parts of the city saw close to 4 inches of rainfall, levels usually reserved for hurricanes, not a regular October afternoon. Central Park alone recorded nearly 2 inches, breaking a record that stood for over a century. LaGuardia Airport saw almost the same, smashing another long-held record from the 1950s. Winds gusted past 40 miles an hour, ripping branches from trees and tossing debris through narrow streets. Traffic lights swayed, sirens wailed, and emergency dispatchers were flooded with calls. Literally, water rushed into basements, parking garages, and subway tunnels faster than the city's pumps could keep up. New York's old drainage system, built for a different era, simply couldn't handle what was happening. By mid-afternoon, New York was drowning in its own stormwater, a modern city brought to a standstill. Not by a hurricane, not by a superstorm, but by the sky itself. By late afternoon, New York City looked like a scene out of a disaster movie. Streets were rivers, cars were islands, and chaos ruled every corner. In Brooklyn, the Belt Parkway vanished under feet of dirty, rushing water. The metal guardrails barely visible. Drivers who tried to make it through had no choice but to leave their cars behind, climbing onto the median as waves splashed against their doors. Across Manhattan, the situation wasn't any better. Social media exploded with videos showing avenues turned into fast-moving streams. Taxis, delivery trucks, even buses were drifting helplessly in the current. Underground, the nightmare only deepened. Water poured into subway stations, cascading down stairways and elevator shafts. Some trains came to a stop between stations, trapping passengers in pitch-black tunnels as crews scrambled to drain the flooded tracks. But no matter how fast they pumped, the rain just kept coming. The city's aging infrastructure, once built to survive anything, was finally pushed past its limit. At the airports, things were just as bad. LaGuardia, JFK, Newark, all paralyzed. Over 700 flights canceled, more than 1,000 delayed. Terminals were packed shoulder to shoulder, travelers staring helplessly at screens flashing storm warnings instead of departure times. Outside, thunder rolled across the skyline, echoing like distant explosions. By nightfall, tragedy struck. 2 people lost their lives, trapped in flooded basements in Brooklyn and Queens. The water rose too fast, leaving them no way out. That night, the city that never sleeps went silent. Sirens echoed through the dark, helicopters circled above, and all of New York seemed to hold its breath, drowned in its own stormwater, waiting for the rain to finally stop. Across the Hudson River, New Jersey was living its own version of chaos. By mid-afternoon, the storm slammed into cities like Jersey City, Clifton, Secaucus, Toms River, and Little Silver, unleashing a relentless wall of rain that quickly overwhelmed storm drains. Within minutes, streets disappeared under waist-deep water. Winds howled at nearly 60 miles per hour, snapping trees and ripping down power lines. At Newark Airport Station, chaos unfolded as floodwaters covered the tracks. Trains sat frozen in place, while commuters crowded onto the platforms, staring out helplessly into the storm. Delays stretched for more than an hour, and when service finally resumed, it was slow, unstable, and uncertain. A clear reminder of how fragile the system really is. Further south, in Woodbridge, a massive tree crashed onto a power line, forcing a complete shutdown of rail service between New York Penn Station and Long Branch. Meanwhile, downtown Jersey City gave one of the storm's most haunting scenes. Inside the Departed Souls Brewing Company, owner Brian Kabaki recorded water pouring from the ceiling, rushing across the floor and destroying everything in its path: furniture, sound gear, ingredients, and more. Within just 15 minutes, the entire brewery was underwater. Outside, cars floated by as neon lights flickered through the rising tide, a surreal image of nature overpowering everything man-made. Along the coast, Route 3 in Clifton vanished beneath a torrent of floodwater. Both directions were shut down after flash floods completely swallowed the roadway near Broad Street, turning what was once a busy highway into a temporary river. New Jersey wasn't just battling rain that day, it was fighting to stay afloat. Little Silver, New Jersey. What started as a steady downpour turned into chaos in just a few hours. The Little Silver Creek couldn't take it anymore, and when it burst its banks, the streets turned into rivers. By evening, more than a dozen towns had declared local emergencies. Under the flashing blue and red lights, people stood on their porches, clutching flashlights, stacking sandbags, and watching the water creep closer. For many residents, it didn't feel like a storm anymore. It felt like a siege. New Jersey was drowning, one street at a time. Meteorologists quickly made one thing clear: this wasn't a hurricane. Not even a nor'easter. It was something different. A fast-moving inland storm that started over the Appalachian Mountains, carrying a dangerous amount of tropical moisture as it tore through the northeast. Unlike coastal storms that build over warm ocean water, this one was created when two powerful air masses collided: cold, dry air from the north met warm, humid air from the south. The result? A chain reaction of thunderstorms that just wouldn't let up. Experts from the National Weather Service and Fox 5 New York say storms like this are happening more often and hitting harder as our climate continues to change. For the people of New Jersey, this was more than a flood. It was a wake-up call, a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous storms don't come from the ocean. They come from the sky above our own backyards. Warm air has a way of holding more moisture, and when that air gets pushed upward, it doesn't just rain. It pours like a waterfall from the sky. By early Friday morning, the heaviest downpours had finally passed, leaving behind streets buried in mud, trees snapped in half, and windows shattered like glass. But the danger wasn't over yet. Wind advisories stretched across all 21 counties of New Jersey, with gusts expected to reach up to 40 miles per hour through Halloween. For emergency crews, the fight wasn't against water anymore. It was the wind. They worked around the clock to clear down power lines, pump out flooded roads, and bring back electricity to the thousands still left in the dark. When the first light touched the Hudson, the storm had finally passed, but its scars were everywhere. Streets across Brooklyn and Newark looked like disaster zones. Cars sat buried in mud, their headlights still glimmering beneath dirty floodwater. Broken glass, twisted branches, and scattered debris lined the sidewalks, silent reminders of a night New York won't forget. Subway entrances were sealed off with yellow tape as crews worked tirelessly to drain millions of gallons of water from the tunnels below. Pumps thundered through the morning, echoing through the streets like a heartbeat fighting to bring the city back to life. For countless residents, sunrise didn't bring relief. It brought the full reality of the storm's devastation. Neighborhoods were isolated, homes damaged, lives upended. And yet, this is New York, a city that doesn't know how to quit. Through the chaos, workers labored through the night, clearing debris, pumping out subways, reopening roads. By morning, the skyline stood tall again, bruised but not broken. And even as recovery continued, preparations were quietly underway for one of the city's most cherished traditions, the New York City Marathon. On Sunday morning, over 55,000 runners will gather on Staten Island. They'll race across the bridges of Brooklyn, through the streets of Queens and the Bronx, and finally into Central Park, cheered on by nearly 2 million spectators. After a week drowned in darkness and water, the city will rise once more, one stride, one heartbeat at a time. Small businesses, Cozy cafes, laundromats, and corner stores, all left in ruins. Owners stood in muddy doorways, sweeping away what was left of their hard work, hoping to save whatever little they could. Across New Jersey, roads were still underwater. Utility crews worked non-stop, trying to bring power back to thousands who had spent the storm in complete darkness. Experts confirmed this storm wasn't tied to Hurricane Melissa, the one that tore through the Caribbean just days ago. No, this was something different, an inland storm, powerful, fast, and unexpected. A harsh reminder that even without hurricanes, America is now facing a new kind of threat, stronger, more frequent, and more destructive rainstorms. Climate scientists say it's simple: warmer air holds more moisture. And when that humid air meets a cold front, it dumps it all at once. That's not rain. That's disaster in motion. By Friday evening, the skies finally cleared. The winds calmed down. But in New York and New Jersey, the sound of rushing water still haunted people's minds, echoing through basements, streets, and memories. The storm had passed, but its warning remained, because this wasn't just a one-day disaster. It was a glimpse into America's future, a future where even a normal storm can shut down entire cities, where resilience isn't just about rebuilding what's broken. It's about rethinking how we live in a world that's changing faster than we ever imagined. The storm may be over, but the message it left behind, that's still echoing. In just a few hours, what started as a regular rainstorm turned parts of New York and New Jersey into flood zones. No hurricane, no named system, just relentless rain, powerful enough to bring two of America's toughest states to their knees. Basements in Brooklyn filled with water. Streets in Newark went dark. Cars floated where kids once played. It wasn't just about flooded roads, it was a wake-up call. Our weather isn't what it used to be. The floods are getting higher. The storms are hitting harder. And the line between natural disaster and human-made crisis is fading fast. But even in the chaos, one thing stood strong: people. Neighbors rescuing strangers. Firefighters wading chest-deep to save trapped families. Communities coming together, cleaning up, rebuilding, refusing to give up. Because that's what New York and New Jersey do. They don't just recover, they rise. Still, this isn't just another comeback story. It's a warning written in water. And if we don't pay attention now, the next flood won't wait for anyone. If the story hit home, don't just scroll past. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to understand what's really happening. And subscribe for more real stories from across America and around the world. Now tell us, do you think storms like this are just nature doing its thing? Or is this a sign that our planet is changing faster than we can handle? Because every storm has a message. The real question is, are we listening?